Hello, guys. Welcome back to Ask Pharmacist Tish. I am your favorite community pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist for over 20 years. I have a wealth of knowledge, and I am here to share that with everyone. If you're watching now, I greatly appreciate it. So, love you guys. I appreciate it. Make sure and like, share, and subscribe on your way in or on your way out. Also, if you are watching the replay of this, which is more than likely, please leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you're thinking. If you have any questions or anything, please let me know in the comment section, or go to my Facebook Live business page, or however that's in my, what do you call it, my About section page. Reach out to me on those platforms and let me know, and I'll be so glad to get back in contact with you and answer your questions. So today we are talking about, since this is National Cancer Prevention Month, we are going to talk about some HPV. So lately in the news, we have Cardi B, and recently she won like a really lucrative case about claims that Tasha K, which is a very popular blogger on YouTube, and she made some claims about Cardi B being like, and of course everyone knows who Cardi B is, but she made some very aggressive claims about how Cardi B is into prostitution, how she put beer bottles up her hoo-ha, and that she has like STIs, or sexually transmitted infections, or transmitted sexual disease, STD. So we're going to be talking about that. So I'm not sure if y'all heard about the case. So what do y'all think about that? So back in the day, words used to be words, but Cardi claimed that this caused her to be suicidal, that she had a lot of distress after her child was born. She couldn't relate to her husband because of the weight of all the things Tasha K said about her, about her being promiscuous, her sexuality, and most importantly, having STDs, including HPV, has really damaged a lot about her. So, I don't know. What do y'all think about that? Y'all think she's stressed about that, or you think she was more so just, trying to say something to make sure she was okay? So, I don't know. I kind of think Baby is very tough skin, and I don't know, for her to be actually stressed out about, and to the point where she was suicidal and stuff. I mean, everyone have their own emotions, and everyone process things differently. If it was me, I guess that would be very discouraging, to put it nicely. So that probably would have taken a lot out of me to, have a popular blogger spread all over YouTube that I have HPV and other sexual transmitted diseases. But either way, so the what we're going to talk about today, I'm trying to get my stuff lined up so I can off the screen. But we're going to talk about HPV. And HPV stands for human papilloma virus. So we're going to talk about that. That's a form of STD. It is, hold on, give me one moment. I can get it away. Not as usual. Yeah, turn that down. I'm sorry, I can't chew bubble gum and talk at the same time, or have music blasting in my ear and talk. So yeah, but yeah, Cardi B, I think she won like a lot of money from that lawsuit. Let me get that off the screen. All right, sorry, I had to work that out. So anyway, so HPV, human papilloma virus. That's what HPV stands for, and and it's considered. Why is it considered bad? Well, like I said, it's a type of STD, one of the top are easily transmittable sexual transmitted diseases, and there are over 150 strains of them or different types of them. So they are listed as types. So there are over 150 of them, and they're given a number. So like, you have the HPV 16, HPV 18, it's so many different types, but not the most important thing about HPV is, and that we're going to discuss, and why is it so important, because it's very preventable. And then we're going to get into how does a pharmacist play into, giving information and how we can help you know more knowledge about it and how we can, help you prevent having it, because HPV can lead to cervical cancer, among other things. So they're given a different number, um, and HPV are called papilloma viruses, and that's because it can present as simple as a wart. So some people, they have, wart on their genitalia. It can be something simple as a wart that can go away on its own. There are very few incidences where the wart on the genitalia can cause some great discomfort to the point it can interrupt your lifestyle. But it can present as a wart, um, which is non-cancerous, like little non-cancerous tumors. But some types are known to cause cancers, including cancers of the cervix, cancer of the vagina, the vulva, the penis, the anus, and parts of the mouth and throat. So I put an emphasis on penis because HPV is not limited to just women. Men can also carry and present with HPV. So yes, men can get it, and there are ways that can be prevented for men as well. So we're gonna go through that. So this is just not a woman thing, and all y'all men should go watch football, basketball, or just act like this doesn't concern y'all. But it is very much on both ends, a woman and a man issue. But with women, is we're more focused on women because it can lead to cervical cancer, and that's a pretty, cancer is horrible and it's a bad thing. But cervical cancer, the number one thing is you can prevent it in most cases, but cervical cancer, cancer of the cervix, can be very difficult to treat once you get it, and it's just really a hard cancer to deal with. Oh, hey, not so awesome, Larry. Haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? Um, but let's see here. So yeah, so the thing with HPV is it can cause warts, which are non-cancerous tumors, which is fine, but it can also turn into cancer. So that's why HPV is a very uh, a disease state that should be definitely talked about. So how can you get HPV? So hello, pharmacist. I haven't seen you in so long. It's great to see you. So how can you get HPV? You can get it from direct skin to skin contact. So it is a sexually transmitted disease. Excuse me, I'm from the country, so I have a heavy tongue, so I speak not as clearly. But we're gonna get the message across. But it's a sexually transmitted disease, and it's spread by direct skin to skin contact. Um, and it happens during skin to skin contact, during vaginal sex, oral sex, anal sex, or any kind of sexual activity, except sexting. So you can do some sexting and you won't get it, but all the same, it might lead to sex. I know that was a bad joke, but either way, but that's the only sex that you can do where you don't get HPV from sexting. Anyway, yeah, I had to double down on my joke. Either way, it can be spread even when the affected person shows no visible signs of it. So that's the thing about it. It can lay dormant for like 10 to 15 years. You don't, and you can't really trace who you get it from, because almost everyone at a certain point in time will um, possibly have HPV. So that's the thing with it. Let's see here. And 80% of us actually you know, during some kind of sexual encounter would have HPV at one point in time in our lives. But the thing is, the body usually has a way of resolving it on its own, and the immune system kind of works it out the system. But when it doesn't do that, when your immune system or if your body isn't getting it out of your system on its own way, on terms, that's when it presents as a problem that has to be taken care of and given extra care to. Let's see here. The virus can be spread by the genitalia with genital contact without sex. So just any kind of skin to skin contact, it does not have to, I hate to say it, doesn't have to technically be any penetration involved. But so you have to be careful. You can use condoms to prevent it, but you have to be careful once again. And I'm not trying to say condoms is not a good thing. It definitely helped decrease the risk of spreading HPV. But with HPV, because it's from skin to skin contact, you can still present it or have it in the perineum area of your body, which is the body part, you know, the space between your vaginal area and your rectum area. That's area, the perineum. So, in a condom, my point is it can't cover that, so you have to be careful. Um, of course, you can have it on the scrotum. You know, condoms doesn't cover that area, so you just have to be careful. Um, even with condom use, so you don't get ways you don't get HPV, because I know a lot of times people like to, you know, not admit that you can get such sexually transmitted diseases. They don't want to admit that it came from sex. So they try to say, well, maybe I got it from the toilet seat, or maybe I got it from swimming, or maybe I shook someone's hand, or maybe I ate off of someone's fork, or you know, maybe the person I was around is dirty. Those are what you do not get HPV from those types of ways. So those are just excuses. It has to be from skin to skin contact in a sexual way. So even from um, you know, you can get it, you know, orally. So oral sex. So you just have to be careful. And you can definitely minimize the transmission of it by minimizing amount of partners that you have. So if you're into having different partners or whatever the case may be, you have to be careful, because you're more prone to transmit or to receive the HPV. So, how common is HPV, or human papilloma virus? How common is it? Um, it is almost, some doctors consider it as common as the common cold. So, while 80 million people in the United States, they have it. They already have it and they carry it. And from there, 14 million people each year, there will be new cases of it each year. So it's very prevalent, it's very common. And like I said, not all of them present to go to straight to cancer. Not all of it presents or goes straight to being a wart, a topical wart or whatever to that nature. And we're not talking about a herpes wart. This is like a HPV wart. So that's different from the herpes wart. So two totally different types of STIs. But yeah, 80 million people have it in the United States. 14 more millions of people have it each year. Um, if you ever had sex at one point, you may have had HPV. That's how common it is. It's like the common cold. You get it, your body works it out, and then it's gone. It's a virus, so it can, go on. But unfortunately, it can get into the system of some people, and it can replicate, and it can go into being a cancer. So that's the premise, or the importance of knowing about HPV, because it can lead to a cervical cancer. And the most important thing is it can be prevented. That's the most important thing, and we're gonna go into how that works. So if even if you had one partner, you could still somehow have HPV, because even if you had that one partner, who's to say that one partner you've been with only had didn't have one partner. You can't control or really say how many partners who had what. So that even if you only had one partner, you're still very much prone, if you ever had sex, to have come into HPV. So a question that is asked a lot is, well, can you do testing, or, how does that go? And we're gonna get into all of that. But a lot of times they really, because it's so common, and a lot of people may have had it at one point in time in their lives. People under 30, they're really not big into testing for it or whatnot, because it may show that you do have it, and then, but it's really nothing to worry about, something to keep an eye on. But really over 30, that's when they really, because of the age factor, they really key in and want to keep an eye on it, and, have it contained and control. Let's see. In most cases, the body clears the infection on its own. We already talked about that. But when it comes chronic, it can become cancer over time. The best way to prevent HPV is to never have sex. But let's just be real. We're human. We want to procreate. We want to have, relate to other people. And that's, the human thing to do. So saying never to have sex, that's not an option. You do want to limit your sexual partners, because the more partners you have, the more opportunities for having HPV. And condoms is a way of preventing it. And make the biggest thing to prevent HPV from becoming cancerous is to get your yearly Pap smear. That is so very important, because it's something that, it can be from a Pap smear, it can be found, and they can either just keep an eye on it. They can tell you to come back in 6 months, or they can, they keep an eye on it for you, or they can go to a route where they want to do procedures to kind of minimize it, and to see how, what's going on with it and what route they should take with it. Um, so when it comes to a pharmacist aspect of it, how can we help out and help you prevent HPV? So now there is, which has been out for like actually 15, I believe, to 20 years. There is a Gardasil vaccine. It's a vaccine for HPV called Gardasil. You can get it from your community pharmacy. So you don't have to go to the Planned Parenthood clinics. You don't have to go to your doctor, your OBGYN. You can go to your community pharmacy rather, and we can administer the HPV, or it's called the Gardasil vaccine, which is absolutely really good that pharmacists are now in the role of giving vaccines, because it's more of a public um, is is a public advantage, where you just don't have to worry about the appointments, and, just all of the things of life that can hold you back, is something where you can be more in control of, it's more accessible. And so I'm not sure what that was about. And so that's very important. Let's see. So the Gardasil vaccine is available for females and males. So it's good for men and women. And remember, like I said, HPV is just not just because just for women. Rather, it's not just a woman disease. It is also just as more prone, more so prone to men as well. Not more so, but it's, prone for men as well. So the Gardasil vaccine is for men and for women, and you can get it from early as age 9 up until age 45. So they had it where the age of the vaccine only went up to age 26. But there are such things as, the 40-year-old virgin, or, are just, there are different, like I said, strains, or different numbers of the HPV virus. So, is this good that you can get the vaccine and it will cover, more so cover that and have you protected. So it's for age 9 for men 9 to 45 years old. And the vaccine is the prevention of the cervical, the vulvar, the vaginal, the anal, the oropharyngeal, and other head and neck cancers caused by HPV. So all of these things can be caused from HPV. So let me repeat that. So it's good for the cervical, prevention of cervical cancer, the cancer of the vulvar, the vaginal area, the anal, the oropharyngeal, and other head and neck cancers caused by HPV. So that's why it's just so important to know that there is options and there's prevention and accessibility when it comes to prevention of HPV. And I know a lot of issues are, dealing with it, especially, thinking about a 9-year-old getting the vaccine. That's a hard pill to swallow. So I totally get it because I have a young daughter myself, but she's not young anymore. But at one point she was young and the thought of sex and a young 9-year-old. But the main thing is the vaccine, the younger you can get the vaccine, the more effective the vaccine will be, and less like in children that age aren't sexually active. So it go ahead, it's like in the system and is working before the time where usual sexual activities will begin. So that's a good thing. Let's see here. Also, it's good for the precancerous cervical cells. It prevents that. Prevents anal lesions. Just all of that stuff. It's just so easy to prevent it. Be educated, and you can get all of this education from your local pharmacy. So that is the best thing about it. You don't have to necessarily do all the Google search. You don't have to, really take that responsibility upon yourself and sift through all the wealth of knowledge that is on the internet. You have your local pharmacist that, your community pharmacist, or you can come to me and it's something that can be easily discussed. And, definitely something that should be done. And it's the beautiful thing about it is over the vaccine, the Gardasil vaccine is over 90% effective. So that is absolutely like, why wouldn't you do it? Over 90% effective to prevent the possibility of getting cervical cancer, the possibility of um, non-tumorous, or cancerous genital warts. All of that can be prevented. All of the, possible, oral pharyngeal cancers, a possibility of that. That is why not? And that's the cancer of the mouth, in the back of the mouth and the throat. So why not, and, go for that? Another way you can avoid it though is your annual, like I said, annual pap smear. I know no one likes to go scoot, scoot, froggy leg out. I get it. It is highly annoying. And a lot of times as women, we, especially in our, the younger year, not mine, but their younger years, a lot of times you only go to a pap smear to get birth control. But once you get past that, mark or age where you're, past needing a birth control or anything of that nature, it still is important to get a yearly pap smear. Why is that? Because a lot of times the virus can lay dormant for up to years. And round about your 40s, that's when you will realize that you have, where HPV can present itself. So this is why it's so important all through your 40s, even if you're not desiring birth control, to get your yearly pap smear or whatever schedule your OBGYN desires for you to stay on top of it because it's so preventable. And I cannot stress that enough how preventable the HPV progressing to cancer can be. So that's very important. Um, and that's basically it for that. I'm not sure if anyone have any questions or anything, but like I said, this the main thing is you is very preventable. You can it's very accessible. I know a lot of times in um, certain communities, especially the underserved and underprivileged communities, accessibility to proper health care is a issue. And when you have a pharmacy on every corner of the United States, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. So accessibility. Thank you. Not so hostile, Larry. I appreciate that. You have any questions? Can't. Uh, but that's the most important thing is this. When it's come when we speak about the underserved and the underprivileged communities, the most important thing is the quality of care, of course, but the accessibility of care. And a lot of times, pharmacies are managed to for high excellence of customer service. So usually you're going to get a higher quality of care because it's more of a corporate thing and there are a lot of metrics. I could tell you personally, there are a lot of metrics and a lot of stuff like that to make sure that customer service is paramount and that is being executed. So the kind of service you were getting and the access is what is needed. um, can men get HPV? Yes, I think I mentioned that a few times, but yes, that's the thing. Men can get HPV. Yes, they can. They can get warts of the genitalia, and yeah, they can get the anal cancers. They can get the oral pharyngeal cancers. So, and that's very important to know. Yes, men can definitely get HPV. It's not limited to just women. So that's why the Gardasil vaccine is for both men and for women starting from age 9. So even if, so I know it's hard to think about your little girl and getting her this vaccine in advance, but don't think of it as a vaccine to prevent a sexually transmitted disease, because 80% of the people in their lifetime would have had some kind of HPV that naturally will go away on its own in most cases. But in case that's not the case, you have an opportunity to prevent cervical cancer. That's the main thing. So this is a almost you can say that it's one of the vaccines that you can say that can prevent cancer, so to speak. That's probably too much of a bold statement, but it's definitely preventable. So not for limited just for your little girl to think about, but for your young sons as well. You also want your sons to be protected, and because it's something that can be totally preventable. So that's the most important thing. Um, Yeah, so that's basically it with that. I'm not sure if you have any other questions or anything. This was kind of short and sweet. There's a lot of wealth of information that can be discussed, but it's really kind of outside the scope of this conversation. When it comes to pharmacy and what a pharmacist brings to the table when it comes to um, HPV is knowledge, information that we can give and accessibility. So you can go to your local pharmacy and your pharmacist, like I said, you don't usually don't have to make an appointment. We usually have it on hand. You don't have to make an appointment. Some states may require a prescription from the doctor. Some states don't. So you can contact me, or you can contact, or just call the local pharmacy and ask, do I need a prescription for the HPV vaccine? And that's something the pharma, in this state, and the pharmacist can tell you, yes, you would need a prescription. And a lot of times, if that you desire, the pharmacist, if you have a relationship with that pharmacy and we have, let's say, already getting birth control and we know who your OBGYN is, we can make a call on your behalf, which is great. We can say, hey, this patient is desiring the HPV vaccine. Can you send us over a prescription for it if that's a state that doesn't allow the pharmacist to do the prescribing on it or have it as a standing order, as we call it, for that state, where we just can go ahead and just give it under our own authority as a standing order. Um, so that's a good thing. So that's the benefit of a community pharmacist. Like I said, we can just go ahead and make that call for you and say, "Hey, send over that HPV vaccine order or something we just can do as a standing order, and we can take care of it for you." It does come as a 3 series vaccine. You get it from day one, 2 months later, and then the third one in 6 months. So it is a 3-part series. If you don't come on schedule, you don't have to usually start the whole series over. You can just start where you left off. And with the pharmacy, we have all the records of it. Or if you went to, like, let's say the health department, you can have more likely to give you like a vaccine card, and we can see notations or look at the database for vaccines, and we can see where you at in the series, and we can just go accordingly and get you caught up. So, but it is a 3-part series. When it comes to vaccines and side effects, a lot of people they are a little squirmish when it comes to vaccines, but this is something that can prevent cancer, cervical cancer, or genital, the warts of the genitalia, or just other kinds of cancers, penile cancer with men. So it's very important, um, to keep that in mind. Um, but when it comes to side effects of vaccines, my point is you don't want to get hung up on, well, it's gonna hurt or it's gonna be irritating, because what's more irritating, what hurts more is a cancer that could have been prevented. So like I said, it's a 3-part series unless you started off at age 9, and then a lot of times it can just be a 2-part series. But for the most part, up to age 45 is a 3-part series. And like any vaccine, what are the side effects? You may have the typical, just like the flu vaccine, the typical, irritation at the injection site, redness or swelling, or redness and swelling, pain. And that's not something that can, something easily that can be taken care of with some Motrin or some Advil, ibuprofen products. Um, Stuff like that. You may, a lot of times when we give vaccines, we want you to kind of stick around for 10 to 15 minutes. And that's just to make sure you don't have any syncope, which is another word for fainting, or you may feel lightheaded or dizzy. But that's going to be like with any vaccine. So that's not going to, it's nothing more aggressive than, I would say, the flu vaccine. Some people say maybe a little more painful. Some people say it's about the same, but it's nothing where you shouldn't, people feel it's so horrible that they don't want to come back for the others, second or third part of the series of the vaccine. Um, Thank you, not so awesome, Larry. He asks, does HPV vaccine help if you're already infected? That's a great question. So the vaccine is only for prevention. It does not help. It doesn't get rid of any HPV, or it doesn't cure HPV. Actually, there is not a cure per se for HPV. But the thing is, you can prevent it, but the vaccine does not help you if you already infected. Those are other measures or other testings that can be done. So, but if you had HPV at one point and it went away, it's still good to, of course, this is under the direction of your gynecologist and the discussion that you have with them. But it's good to go ahead and get the vaccine, because there are different strains or different types of HPV. So it's just good to go ahead and get the vaccine. It won't hurt anything. It can only help. That's actually a great question, not so awesome, Larry, and I appreciate you being here. So thank you so much. Um, let's see anything I missed out on, but yeah, what do y'all think about so it's kind of messed up because Cardi B had to, I think I don't know how I went with HIPAA, but to prove this lawsuit and win all that money, she had to, go through the testing to prove that she does not have any kind of STIs or any kind of, HPV included in that. Um, so she really, yeah. And then thank God that could have really gone wrong when you think about it because HPV can come and it can go. So it would have been kind of interesting if at that moment she happened to have HPV for that moment. That would have just totally killed her whole part of the case. That would have been absolutely disastrous, and that would have worked in Tasha K's favor. So if I were to been, if I was Tasha K, I would have been praying to God that somehow that HPV would have popped up. But um, because you can get it and it just can go away. It's a virus. It can come and it just can go on away. So, that could have been a very, big possibility that she could have not had it and then right during that testing, then it pops right up. So yeah, that would have been interesting. So, let's see. I can't really think of anything else. And the beauty of lives, I'm just getting started. So I don't have like an audience just of yet, but it's gonna be awesome once we get some back and forth and more questions and stuff like that. But I'm just letting y'all know I'm here for y'all. I'm here. To give accessibility to a healthcare professional, in our little community of YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all of that, someone that you can come to and ask questions to, um, ask questions and, get a good answer. So that's the main thing. But yeah, that was a great question. If you're already affected. Yeah. So with any vaccine, the premise or the purpose of vaccines is to give prevention. So vaccines, not going to be for the purpose of getting rid of anything. It is to prevent for prevention. So, a lot of people have issues with vaccinations and that it's not healthy, it's not safe, et cetera, et cetera. But there the people who come up with this technology, these people are brilliant. And it it may be mind-boggling to us that we just don't understand how they can come up with such concepts and, is it safe or whatnot, but there are so many clinical trials. There is, and the concept of vaccine is not a new one. It's been around for like a century. So it's just really good to have the technology in the medical world where you can possibly prevent something. Now, is it 100%? No, nothing is 100%. As we know from the flu virus, when you get the flu virus, the odds of getting the flu is still great, but it can prevent it, and so that's the beauty of it. There are, vaccines like the pneumonia vaccine, that's very helpful. Is it 100% against pneumonia? No. So, the same thing with the Gardasil or the HPV vaccine is over 90% effective. That's not 100%. So, and there are over 150 types of, HPV. Around about 14 of them, of the types of HPV, can lead to actual cancer. But they have the technology pretty down pat where it's 90% efficacy rate, which is a really good, the odds are really on your side to prevent cervical cancer. So that is really, really good. Um, yeah, that's about it. Thank you, not so awesome, Larry. You're really helping me out. I appreciate that. Can HPV be passed from a mother to her child during pregnancy? That is a good hard question. Um, Yes, it can be passed from the mother to the child, if I'm not mistaken. That's kinda out the scope of my expertise. I'm not a gynecologist, but if I'm not mistaken, it can be passed from the mother to the child. It's not a likely thing per se, but it can present to, a child from the pregnancy, through birth. So that yes, that is a possibility. Yes. Yes, it can. Any other hard questions? Though rare, HPV infection can pass through mother-child transmission when the infant passes through the affected birth canal. Yeah, so that's exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Why you ask if you know the answer? I was joking. Thank you so much. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Through birth, it can be given to the child. It's not a usual case, if I'm not mistaken, but it can happen. So what not so awesome, Larry went on and say, though rare, HPV infection can pass through the mother to child transmission when an infant passes through an affected birth canal. Yeah, so that is true. So even if you're looking after yourself, another question may be also, can you get the HPV vaccine while you're pregnant? And that's not something that is to be done. That's something that's between you and the the patient and the OBGYN. But that's not something um, that you want to do while a mother is pregnant with a child. You don't wanna do the HPV vaccine unless, that's a different conversation between the mom and the OBGYN gynecologist. So, any other questions? Not so awesome, Larry, since you're the one supporting me today. I appreciate it so much. But I think that's about it. I think I've covered, just the gist of it. So the main thing is HPV. Why is it recommended to wait 6 months between the doses of vaccine? So the dosing schedule is 0 to 0 months. Um, the first dose, and then you get to the 2 month mark. Up to 6 months, and so they just have it dosed because they want the body to have time for it to acclimate into the system and to become in working order, so to speak, before you give the doses too closely. So you want the body to have time to bond with the medication and to become in working order, and that's why they spread it out that way. Um, yeah, so his question was, why is it recommended to wait 6 months between the doses of the vaccine? So it just depends, but usually the dosing is get it, and then 2 months later, you get the second one, and up to 6 months, you can get the third one. And like I said before, because you have, um because if you get off track rather with the dosing, then you don't worry about it. You can just jump right back in. But the main thing is once you start the 2-part or the 3-part series, you do want to complete it. That's the most important thing. And that's because that's the way you gonna get that 90% efficacy rate from that. So that's what you really want to keep aware of and keep in mind. So all right. If there are not any other questions, I think we're going to close out.